You know, let's be real for a second. Who doesn't love chocolate? It's just one of those things, right? A total comfort food, a universal treat. But what if I told you the future of that chocolate bar you love is, well, in jeopardy? Today, we're going to dig into the story of how our changing climate is threatening the very plant that gives us cocoa, and the really brilliant plan farmers are using to fight back.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The thing you got to understand is that cocoa production is incredibly sensitive. I mean, for generations, farmers have built their lives around predictable weather patterns. But climate change is just ripping up that rule book, and it's creating a genuine crisis for the crop that, ends up in all our favorite desserts. And this just lays it all out in pretty stark detail. It's not just one thing hitting the cocoa plant. It's a full-on assault. Take drought, for example. It doesn't just wilt the plant. It causes something called flower abortion, which basically means potential cocoa pods don't even get a chance to form. Then you've got intense rainfall, which creates the perfect home for diseases like black pod, and that leads to moldy beans. And on top of that, higher temperatures stress the plant, they slow down photosynthesis, and they invite a whole new lineup of pests. The end result, no matter the cause, it's always the same: smaller beans and lower yield. And that lower yield, well, that translates directly to higher prices and potential shortages for all of us.
Seeing all that, the question becomes pretty urgent. Right? We can't just cross our fingers and hope for the best. How do we protect this vital crop? And, just as importantly, the livelihoods that depend on it? What's the plan?
Well, the answer is a strategy that's gaining a ton of ground all over the world. It's called climate-smart agriculture, and it's a fundamental shift in how we have to think about farming in our new climate reality.
So the key thing to get about CSA is that it's not some rigid, one-size-fits-all instruction manual. It's way more like a dynamic toolkit. It gives farmers a whole range of options to adapt to the specific challenges they face, whether it's too much rain, not enough rain, or just scorching heat.
And this is exactly why that toolkit approach is so critical. See, not all cocoa-growing regions are getting hit the same way. In Ghana, for instance, researchers have mapped out these climate impact zones. So in the coping zone, things are still pretty favorable, and farmers can focus on just beefing up their resilience. In the adjustment zone, they need to make bigger, more systemic changes. And in the transformation zone, while the climate might become so unsuitable for cocoa that farmers actually need to start thinking about switching to other crops entirely, like cashew or shea.
So, how does this actually work in practice? Where do you even start? Well, it all begins at the most foundational phase, setting up a new farm. The choices you make right here, at the very beginning, are your first and most important line of defense.
And the single most important rule is this: you never, ever plant cocoa by itself. The old method of just clearing a bunch of land for a single monoculture crop, which often just leads to stressed out wilting plants, that's out. The future is intercropping, which means planting a mix of different crops and trees all together in one symbiotic system.
And here's why this is so brilliant. Each plant has a job to do. Plantain, for example, gives immediate temporary shade for those vulnerable young cocoa seedlings, and its stems hold on to precious moisture. Legumes, like beans, are fantastic because they naturally fix nitrogen in the soil, free fertilizer. Ground covers act like a living shield, keeping all that good topsoil from washing away in a downpour. And here's a pro tip. The best practice is to plant all these support crops a full year before the cocoa seedlings even go in the ground, so they're protected from day one. It's just smart.
On top of smart planting, farmers can give their seedlings an extra leg up with simple, homemade solutions. This compost tea is basically a nutrient-packed energy drink for plants. By just steeping compost in water, farmers create this incredible tonic that gives young plants the strength they need to handle the stress of a changing climate. It's another low-cost, super high-impact tool right from the CSA toolkit.
Okay, so setting up the farm right is one thing, but climate-smart agriculture is also about adapting the ongoing day-to-day grind. This is the long game, and it means being a more observant and responsive farmer every single season. Let's talk about pest control. The old way was calendar application. You just spray pesticides on a fixed schedule, whether you need to or not. The new way, integrated pest management, is all about watching your farm closely. You only take action when a pest population actually becomes a problem, and you use a mix of methods to deal with it. This shift is a total win-win. It saves a ton of money, it protects the good bugs, and it's so much better for the environment.
Now, of all the tools in the toolbox, there's one that might be the most important for managing both temperature and moisture, and that tool is shade. Proper shade management is absolutely central to protecting these cocoa trees. And it's not just about having any shade. Nope. We're talking about a very specific, managed amount of cover. The sweet spot, the target for a healthy, mature cocoa farm, is a canopy cover between 30 and 50%. That creates this perfectly balanced microclimate, not too sunny and not too dark.
And listen, the type of shade tree you plant is just as crucial as the amount of shade. The right trees give you this whole suite of benefits. They're a buffer against wind and sun, their fallen leaves create a natural mulch, and their roots go deep so they don't compete with a cacao for water. But the wrong trees, they can actually make things worse, especially the ones that lose their leaves during the dry season, exposing the cacao to the harsh sun right when it's most vulnerable.
This kind of adaptive thinking just applies to everything on the farm. So, for example, if you're getting hammered with intense rain, you wait to apply fertilizer after the storm so it doesn't just wash away. If you're in a drought, you prune less to help the plant save its energy. It's all about responding to the actual weather, not just blindly following a calendar.
So, when you start putting all these pieces together, from the intercropping and the compost tea to smart pest control and shade management, what you start to build is a truly resilient system. This is what the future of cocoa farming really looks like.
This quote here really just nails the whole philosophy. The point isn't about solving one single problem, like a drought. It's about building a stronger, healthier, more diverse farm ecosystem that is just better equipped to handle whatever challenges come its way.
Ultimately, every single one of these climate-smart practices works together. Each choice, from the type of tree you plant to when you apply fertilizer, is an investment. It's an investment in healthier soil, more resilient plants, and a more stable income for farmers. It's a holistic approach that secures the future of chocolate, literally from the ground up.
You know, the challenges facing cocoa aren't unique. A lot of the foods we love are under threat from our changing climate. The principles of climate-smart agriculture offer a really hopeful path forward. And that raises a pretty critical question. Can this kind of intelligent, adaptive farming save not just chocolate, but maybe all of our favorite foods?